here then on Nun Beis, the bottom paragraph, Shnia, the second mitzvah of Chesed that we should be infusing with deeper kavana in order to do Chesed with the Kadosh Baruch Hu in the realm of the Spheros, are focusing now in general, remember, on the sphere of Chesed, is Lamul Esav Alad, to circumcise the child. What does this mean? Hainu lasos kitikune mitzvasav, to do the details of the particular mitzvah. What are the details of the mitzvah of Mila? There are three aspects of Mila. Right? There's what's called Mila, and Priya, and Metzitza. Mila is the removal of the foreskin. Priya is the separation of the thin membrane which is underneath the skin of the orla. Once the orla has been removed, that's the foreskin, and it reveals the kind of inner obstruction, which is this thinner membrane of skin beneath it. That's called that's called doing Priya. After doing Mila and Priya, there's a mitzvah of Metzitza. Metzitza is sucking out of the bad blood, drawing out of the blood from that place, in order that the part of the body that's revealed through Mila is properly revealed without any obstruction. There should be no blood there. That's Metzitza. Right? Blood, obviously, we mentioned the other day, it's red, corresponds to din. So the point is, right, we are removing the orla and making sure that what's revealed there, which is the malchus, that malchus should be totally unobstructed, and it should not be enveloped with anything red, any blood, spiritual blood, which is like din. Right? So these are the three things that a person has to do when he does the mitzvah of Mila. And the purpose of all of these three things, shekol ezet tzad klipa ve'orla hametupeles el yasod yom uloisa, that any klipa, which is like an occluding membrane, or orla, which is a covering, hametupeles el yasod, which might be cleaving or clinging to yasod, to the sphere of yasod, yom uloisa, he should remove and get rid of. So he seems to be saying that when a person is actually doing the mitzvah of Mila, he's performing the mitzvah of circumcision of his son, while he's going through the actions of doing bris Mila, he should have in mind that what's going on in the spiritual realm is that he's literally removing, occluding debris, which envelops the spheros, in general, in particular, sphere of Yesod, in order that this debris should not occlude in any way the revelation of Malchus. What's Malchus? The kingship. So that all of that everything that starts in Keser and is funneled down into Yesod is ultimately expressed into Malchus, so that Malchus is literally a revealing of Malchut Shemaim. It's the revelation of the oneness and the unity of the reign of the king over the world. And that's what I was talking to. That's what I was referring to before when I was saying how the oneness of white light is very impressive, but when you refract it into component parts, you get a greater appreciation of how much power of unity there really is. That it includes within it in an inseparable way these different components. That's Malchus. Malchus said, "Wow, that's amazing. That's a revelation of the presence of God." Right? But in order to do that fully, you have to make sure that there's nothing nothing separating between the transition from Yesod, which receives all of the multiplicity, right? And then passes it on to Malchus. To the extent to which there's occluding energy there, the Malchus, the kingship of Hashem, is going to be occluded and limited. And as a result, people are going to be seeing multiplicity and not unity. To the extent to which that intervening material is removed, then people are going to actually be able to appreciate the unity of the kingship of God in creation. And that's Malchus. So that the revealing, the removing of the orla, the tearing of the priya, and the drawing out of the blood the resultant blood, right, which would cover up the glands of that part of the body, which is revealed when a person does circumcision. When a person goes through those physical acts of circumcision, he's actually clearing out and making a greater degree of revelation of Malchut Shemaim in the realm of the spheres as well. You were going to say something, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask if the thing is being done to the child, the newborn can't have kavana. So how does it count as a mitzvah if he's not doing it?
It's a mitzvah on the father to do this for the child.
But you're saying that these things are going on behind the scenes. These spiritual things are happening.
Right.
That those happen regardless of whether the baby is aware of what's going on.
Yes, it's not really the baby's thing. It's the intention of the person who's operating the baby, and this parallels what we were talking about yesterday, which is that as the divine energy comes, as the divine energy is ejaculated from Chokhmah into Bina, and then received by Bina, gestated and gives birth to Tiferes, right? Our external kavanas have an effect on that process, on that birth process. And the child which is born, which is Tiferes, is acted upon by us. So too, when that child is passed on, finally kind of going through the birth canal, arriving at Yesod, right, and then Malchus, at that point we can also intervene, acting on the baby's behalf. Just like we did what we could in order to ensure that the child would be born in a smooth, easy, plentiful, bountiful way. So too we're responsible for making sure that that child, meaning that pocket of energy as it were, is actually brought into the world and is prepared to interact in the world in a way which is correct and proper, unobstructed.
To unobstruct Malchus.
Yes. Well, we're really talking about unobstruct Malchus. Okay, unobstruct Yesod so that Malchus is properly revealed. But yeah, that's what you mean.
And what would the manifestation of that be in our perceptible physical world?
Okay, so
what
is
the effect of circumcision supposed to be?
The effect of circumcision, or the effect of the spiritual effect resulting from circumcision?
Well, if there's this interaction between the spiritual and the physical, what are we supposed to see on our end?
So let's see let's see what the text says. What we're supposed to see in the source first, and then I think we'll be able to appreciate more what happens on our end, right? Which is the manifestation of that. So this is what he has to do: clear away, cut away, remove all of these obstructions, which occlude the light which has been encapsulated into Yesod. Shekol ez etzad klipa ve'orla, so that any obstruction or occluding agent which would be clinging to Yesod, Yom L'so, it should be removed. Okay? What is Klipa and what is Orla? In the Kabbalistic terms, Klipa and Orla have to do with like negative forces. Negative forces. Just like a piece of fruit has within it the inner, luscious, tasty, appealing fruit, which has itself within it the seeds which have the potential for life, but that life and that lusciousness is occluded by the peel. That peel is a klipa. That peel is a klipa which stands between you and the luscious life within it. And therefore you have these negative, spiritually occluding forces which envelop the spheros, which are like luscious, life-giving fruits, and these negative forces prevent the energy, the life-giving force, from being passed on. And what we have to do is cut away those klipos, remove those peels, so that the luscious, life-giving fruit, right, energy within the fruit can flow, so that the juices can flow. That's the idea here. What is the klipa doing there in the spheros? What are these negative energies doing there? So we mentioned how when God created with positive and negative. There's a pure side and an impure side. So there are energies which are exuded from the impure side, which seek to derive their sustenance from kind of drawing the energy from the spheros. And that's why, like leeches, they envelop those fruits and try and keep all of the energy for themselves, right? And they nurse for them. Where else did these negative forces come from? They come from our misdeeds and transgressions and things like this, right? So once they're created, they also infiltrate, like spiritual viruses, the system and intervene and try and come between the process of the passing on of holiness from the spheros down into the world. So these are the klipos. There are really 4 types of klipos. And it comes from, the source for this idea comes from the pasuk in Yechezkel. Yechezkel chapter 1, I think it's verse 4, talks about how Yechezkel just starts to have his very intense and amazing experience of connecting to God in a very high spiritual way. And there's a discussion here at the beginning, before he actually has that experience, of a certain process that he goes through. It says in Pasuk Daled, I guess I'll read it in Hebrew first and then in English. Ve'ere, and I saw, v'hine ruach sara, there was a stormy wind, ba, it came, minat saffron, from the north, anan gadol, and then there was a great cloud, ve'esh mislakachat, and then there was a devouring fire, v'noigaloi saviv, and there was then a light which encapsulated it from about. Umitoicha, within it, ke'ena cheshmal mitocha esh, within it there was this ke'ena cheshmal mitocha esh, a type of glow or force or spark from within the fire. In English they translate it, and I looked and behold, a storm wind came out of the north, a great cloud and a fire flaring up, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst of it, as it were the color of electrum, out of the midst of the fire. So this verse is the verse which is the source for the idea in Kabbalah that there are 4 specific types of klipa, the ones that are mentioned here. There's the stormy wind, there is the cloud, there is the fire, and then there is this 4th klipa called klipas noga, this type of encapsulating klipa. The ruach sara is a klipa which is associated with an ill-seated spirit, like a stormy wind, blowing strange ideas in a person's mind. And it's usually associated with a type of intellectual impurity. Below that, you've got the cloud. Yeah, the cloud is like a dullness or a doubt or an ineptitude, and it has to do with inaction, just because of apathy. And then the 3rd type of klipa is the kind of raging fire, which has to do with the klipa associated with our physical desires, our yearning for all types of indulgences and physical pleasures and the like. And the 4th klipa, called klipas noga, is called this encapsulating klipa. It's viewed as the one hand as being a negative klipa because it's associated with the ones that come before it. On the other hand, the klipas noga in many ways is understood to be a klipa which can nevertheless be harnessed for good. You mentioned Tanya. Tanya talks about klipas noga, for example, in this respect. So that klipas noga has the ability of drawing a person towards all of the previous klipas that we spoke about, but it also enables a person, right, to channel those energies in some way for good. So, for example, there's a desire to eat. Eating, that desire for eating is an example of klipas noga. Why? Because a person can eat negatively in a way of impurity, either because just to indulge or even transgress by eating non-kosher food. However, a person can rectify that klipas noga of the desire to eat by eating kosher food, making brachas, eating with the intention of gaining energy so that he can serve Hashem, right? That would be an example of klipas noga. And these 4 things are mentioned here. So that's what he's talking about, that these types of klipas can kind of envelop particular spheros, and the one we're particularly concerned about with is how they tend to envelop the sphera of Yesod, and occlude, therefore, that fruitful, life-giving energy which has been drained into and been collected into Yesod, waiting to be transmitted to Malchus for the purpose of revealing the kingship of God in the world. But these klipas intending to prevent it from doing so by occluding it. That corresponds to the orla, that thick, coarse piece of skin which covers the crown of the reproductive organ. Cutting away that orla, therefore, has the effect in the spiritual realm of removing the klipos from Yesod.
The negative aspect.
Yes, yeah. All of the klipos are negative, aside from noga, and that's why you have here the three parts of mila are mila, priya, and mitzitza, corresponding to the three forms of the klipa, not klipas noga. Klipas noga would be associated with the drive for sexuality, for example, where it could be used for harm or it could be elevated. We're not removing klipas noga from the bris, but we are removing the other three forms of klipa through mila, removing of the foreskin, priya, the separating of the skins, and through mitzitza, removing that bad blood, right? So that doing the actual act of circumcision in those three parts is removing the klipos which are associated with, and just like removing of the orla enables a person's sexual energy to be released properly in the context of holiness and marriage at the proper time, so that that energy which is collected within him, productively draining into, flowing into that part of its body, so that it's revealed from that part of his body into the feminine, the female counterpart, to receive it as a receptacle. So too, therefore, doing the bris milah removes those klipos and enables the divine energy, which is flowing down from the upper spheros into the receptacle of Yesod, be passed down into Malchus for the purpose of creation. So I didn't realize the time has gone by. We'll probably run out of time. We'll have to probably continue this tomorrow. But we got a proper foundation, pun intended, because Yesod means foundation. I think we got a proper foundation for understanding this more clearly, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to B'ezras Hashem tomorrow.